Train the muscles, not the joints.
Mountain. Welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why playing with light weights is important, even though it's also important to get stronger, okay? But as a natural bodybuilder, you do want to play with light weights here and there. Now, here's the reason why. Here's the reason why. Watch what I'm doing in this clip here. You see, I'm just curling 45 pounds for barbell curls. Now, I can easily do this weight, but as you can see, my technique changes, or I start to experiment where am I getting a better contraction of the muscle. And I can actually use this lightweight as a way of focusing on hitting every last ounce of range of motion out of that muscle. Now, when I use heavier weight, there are other muscles that sometimes will come in and compensate. So it's impossible for me to do 135 for curls and still have this type of technique because, again, all of the exercise dynamics change once the weight gets heavier. And of course, your groove will also change, and also the counterbalancing tactics that you have to use in order to stay on your feet also change, right? Obviously, if you're curling your body weight, you're gonna have to have some body English because you're gonna have to compensate because the body's getting pulled forward every time you curl the weight, right? The exercise police out there don't really understand this whole thing, but yeah, if you're curling your body weight, obviously it's going to knock you off balance if you're not leaning back to compensate for that to a point. So the neat part about playing with light weights is that you can also play with your technique, and some of the techniques that you can use with lighter weights will be different than what you can use with heavier weights, and you may stumble across a new way of stimulating a muscle group. So as you're using lighter weight, it doesn't mean that it's not intense. It can be extremely intense, but just maybe on a different muscle group that you're not used to really hitting, because maybe you're not doing that certain range of motion, or you're not squeezing the same, or you're not using a certain angle because you just can't because of the dynamics involved with using heavier weight. Heavier weight requires a different groove. That's my point, right? And when heavier weight requires a different groove, sometimes you just don't hit some of those other muscle groups that you might hit by using lighter weights. So this is why you see me experiment with, say, some body exercises from time to time, or I'll maybe just do some light barbell curls, or maybe I'll do some really light laterals and you know, experiment. Maybe I'm more out to the side with the lateral raises. Maybe I'm more forward. Maybe I'm coming higher than usual. Who knows? Like, I'm playing around, and based on how my body feels and where it needs the blood flow, that will change my technique in that day. So it's not like there's only one technique for an exercise. A lot of times there's multiple ways to do the same exercise and therefore get the most amount of results, because you want to stimulate a lot of different areas. So it is not a bad thing to not get too stuck in just doing an exercise one way. Now, of course, you never want to do an exercise in a way that injures you. Of course, I understand that. But at the same time, don't get locked into just one way of doing something, because, yeah, sometimes different weight intensities can dictate what your range of motion or what your technique will be, and what muscles you also stimulate because of that. So a great reason to play around with light weights as well is a way to get yourself motivated, because sometimes when you go to the gym and you have this big workout built up in your mind, you're like, okay, I got to hit a PR today, or I got to do the heavy weight. Maybe my body's not quite feeling it, or maybe you're feeling exhausted or tired. It's really easy to convince yourself to just go play around with some light weights and just see how it feels. And sometimes you get some great pumps and some great workouts out of this, and sometimes you find new angles or new ways to attack body parts that just aren't getting hit on those major lift type days, or at least they're not getting hit the same way. So this could be a great bodybuilding day. Find out what angle of attack that you need to use, or what exercise that you can do just super light, just get a good pump, good reps, and basically stimulate those areas you don't stimulate most of the time to get you know, some more development, right? So you don't have to feel like you always have to have the best workout in the world, or the strongest workout in the world. Sometimes it's those light workouts interspersed between the heavy workouts that give you the greatest results. And there's this synergy that goes on between the two, which is what you see in my programs. I always, you know, mix up the reps. It's not always one rep range or another. Now, somebody said to me, they said in the comments, they said, oh, 8 reps, you know, it's pretty lightweight or whatever. It's not really heavy. And you know, what should they do? Should they stick with 8 reps as the standard set for everything? Should they always stick with that, or should they go heavier or lighter? And I always say this, I always say mix up the rep ranges. You don't stick with one rep range. But as a general rule, I would say an 8 rep set is still a pretty heavy set. It's still pretty intense. It doesn't last that long. I think you're within a 10-second range around there, 10 seconds to 12, 13 seconds or so for your reps. So depending on how fast you do them and everything, but you're still in a pretty power dominant set. So that's still a strong set. Now again, when you're using lower back or you're doing squats or you're doing deadlifts, then of course 8 reps is even more heavy, right? Because you have a lot of other muscles that are stimulated from that set and a lot more coordination that goes into it. So I'd say an 8 rep set is extremely heavy when it comes down to squats. If you can just bust out 8 reps and the 8th rep is like you hitting failure, that's pretty heavy. That's like a massive heavy set. At least the way I look at it, that's a heavy set. Doing 5 reps, 4 rep sets, I barely ever do them. Once in a while, maybe if I feel the motion is really safe for me, then maybe I'll do a set like that once in a while. But most of the time I mix the reps up. I mix them up, 8 reps, 5 reps, 15 reps, 20 reps, all over the place. So in this way, or in this tradition, you can mix up these high rep days with these lightweight workouts interspersed between the heavier workouts, and you're going to get some great results from it. And you're also going to maintain your groove and possibly rehabilitate some sort of minor aches and pains. So that's the great part about light weights. It gives you the pump, keeps the blood flowing, helps burn a little bit of fat too at the same time. And at the same time, you may notice that your strength goes up from interspersing these light workouts in between the heavy ones. So I hope this helps you out in your training. Thanks a lot for watching. If you need to get hold of me, just go to naturalgallantbodybuilding.com. And oh yeah, and thanks for the Patreon supporters, because these guys are cool. Mountain.
Gallant!